All right. Welcome back to today's live stream. Today we're going to be looking at a video that has been making the rounds. I promise that we're going to look at it today. In the afternoon live stream, I said that we were going to do this, and we are doing it. It's crazy. Okay, so New York City Police Department is educating the public on how to properly wear a hijab. Okay, now let's watch this, and then I have some thoughts, and you let me know your thoughts in the chat.
So I'm going to give a little example.
So ideally, there's different ways, by the way. You can fit it how you want to, but you can make one side short, one side long, right? And then you put it over and over around your base. And some ladies get creative. You can put a pin. I freestyle everything I do, as you can see. And then I just tuck it in right here. And you wrap it around to your quarters. Make sure your bosom is covered. There's different ways, but this is the most simple way that you can wear it.
All right, so I'm going to be so I have a question in the chat. I'm just going to bring it up, okay? Canary, is this in a mosque or where? All right, I'm going to pause this. Okay, so no, well, according to this report on Grok, it says this was a video of the NYPD from World Hijab Day, showing officers demonstrating how to wear a hijab as part of community outreach and recruitment efforts. Now, it surfaced on X following Zoran's election win as New York City's first Muslim mayor on November 4th. And conservative influencers have criticized this footage as promoting Sharia law, linking it to fears of cultural changes under Mamdani's upcoming January 1st, 2026 inauguration. Now, here's where it gets very tricky. Defenders, including CAIR New York, view the initiative as advancing religious freedom and inclusivity in a city with over 800,000 Muslim residents. Now, it's at this point that many people would call hypocrisy. They'll say this is hypocrisy because the same people who say that there has to be something like this going on to promote religious freedom are the first to jump up to say you shouldn't have the 10 commandments in public spaces like the NYPD. And I got curious and I went on Grok and I asked a question. Are there events where Christian police officers teach the public how to practice Christianity? And the answer was no. Of course, with plenty of caveats. But there is a lot of hypocrisy on this, because if you are trying to push freedom of religion, how come there's been so much pushback on Christianity being promoted in the public space? If in a country where there are more Christians than Muslims, how come it's so important for the minority religion to be given so much privilege, and then the one that is in the majority be told to go sit in a corner and be quiet? Because I need to know why. So this wasn't essentially a New York City event. Sorry, a New York City Police Department event. It was a National Hijab Day, an outreach that's meant to promote that's meant to help recruitment and so on. But this is where a lot of people find a lot of contradiction with the narrative out there. In the chat, the police department shouldn't be involved in religion. We have separation of church and state. Yeah, again, why I say hypocrisy, because the same people that say there's a separation of church and state would happily do this with any other religion. Excuse me. I had my electric heater on. I was concerned it was getting into the mix. So what do you think? Let me know in the chat. Canary King has said there has to be a separation of church and state. If you're watching, do you agree? What are your thoughts? Now, this shouldn't be seen as an anti-Muslim thing. It should really be an issue of, if you're going to be promoting one religion, or if you give license to police officers to promote their dressing. All right, I have a question. Are we now allowed to let police officers wear very conspicuous crucifixes on their person, since hijabs are now a thing? Someone left an early chat, home in MT. Okay, so it didn't appear here, so I can't show it on the screen. It was early before we went live, and he says the hijab could impede movement or vision. Now there's a poll up on the YouTube side. So if you could take part in the poll to let me know your thoughts, that would be great. And then another chat. There needs to be a clear divide between church and state. So what are we doing? Is this a thing? That's what people want to know. Now, the internet is screaming about how conservatives are the ones complaining about this happening. But it's really a very simple question. And then a lot of people are wondering, why now? How come they're doing it now? But then again, let's not engage in conspiracies. Let's just watch and see what goes on. Eventually, we're going to have more answers. However, it is very conspicuous that there are rules for one group of people and the other group has to abide by a different set of rules. Christian cops aren't allowed to proselytize at work. They're not allowed to use their Christian teachings of faith on the job. They're not allowed to do any of that. But it's perfectly okay for other faiths to do this out there in public. So everyone is screaming double standards. I agree. Okay, so I think this is a very short story. The backlash that has come up is expected, but there's not much to say just yet. But this is going to be something that's going to be talked about going forward. Because today we see female police officers in London, in the UK, wearing their hijabs and walking about doing their job. But anyone who attempts to bring up the Christian heritage of England is seen as a problem. Anyone who happens to be conspicuously Christian and steps into a Muslim neighborhood is corralled out of the neighborhood because it is offensive to the Muslims. There is a double standard that brews when these kinds of things begin to happen. That is what concerns a lot of people. Once the hijab starts showing up and it becomes a thing where they are allowed to proselytize and sell that culture, how come Christians aren't allowed to? And then there's going to be this separation of church and state. Okay, so you can separate the church and state, but there's no problem with the separation of mosque and state. Do you know why that doesn't come up in conversation? Because in the teachings of Islam, that doesn't exist. Islam is politics, politics is Islam. It takes over every aspect of the community and of life. So we'll see how that goes in the days to come. In another report, we have Chuck Schumer. I'm going to play this video, and I want you to let me know what your thoughts are concerning this video, because it is really, it's funny how Democrats bend over backwards to blame Trump for everything. They try to make him responsible for the fact that it didn't rain when it was supposed to. Here's Chuck Schumer being asked a very basic question, and let's see what his response is. Hang on.
Why wouldn't they have been released?
I'm going to just hold on.
Okay. Senator, on that note, just I guess a question that's out there. Why wouldn't they have been released the last 4 years when President Biden was in office?
Well, that's the question every American is asking. Or not every American, but so many Americans are asking. What the hell is he hiding? Why doesn't he want them released? When you don't want something like this released, when even a whole lot of Republicans are calling for the release, his own party members, people ask the question, what's he hiding?
Okay, so that is weird. Chuck Schumer was asked a question. The question was really simple. Why wouldn't the Democrats release the files, the Epstein files, for 4 years under Joe Biden? And Chuck Schumer's answer is, that's the question every American is asking. What is he hiding? And he is referring to Trump. Excuse me. Was Trump the president of the United States for the last 4 years? Okay. Democrats, I think Democrats, most Democrat leaders have this tape running in their head. Whenever something goes wrong, blame Trump. He was asked a basic question, why didn't Joe Biden release the files? And he says, Trump. And he's doing it with such gusto. Like, it is impressive how these people have such a lack of self-awareness. Okay, let's listen to this again so that...
Okay. Senator, on that note, just I guess a question that's out there. Why wouldn't they have been released the last 4 years when President Biden was in office?
Well, that's the question every American is asking. Or not every American, but so many Americans are asking. What the hell is he hiding?
What is who hiding? It's okay, guys. In the chat, I'm going to just go to the chat. Okay, chat. What do you think Chuck Schumer is talking about? All right, Canarican says that's a seasoned politician right there. It's impressive. You see, what these guys are able to pull is impressive. I don't even know how they do it. How can you stand in front of millions of Americans and give those kinds of answers? Okay? He knows exactly what he's doing. Well, I agree with you. He does. He knows exactly what he's doing. And sadly, this is going to it's just going to be a blip in the news cycle. And then everyone just moves on. No one is going to come back to say, look, these guys are full of ish. They're going to come back in a few weeks. Now, okay, so now we have President Trump asking for the files to be released. President Trump is now saying, release the files. Okay, I'm saying right now publicly, release the files. So let's see what the Democrats do now, because they've been saying for a long time, what is he hiding? Now that he says release the files, I assume that they're all going to say, well, he doesn't really mean release the files. He's having backdoor meetings saying that they shouldn't actually release the files. He's lying. Okay, so this is yet another indication that these people, well, like Ken says, he knows exactly what he's doing. All right. So what are your thoughts? Let me know in the chat. Okay. Don't be shy. Let me know what you think about this in the chat. Because there's tons of people out there who have been saying, okay, so for 4 years, you guys didn't release the files. How come right now it is the biggest thing you guys are talking about? It is the only thing they talk about. All right. The trains don't run on time is the Epstein files. They shut down the government is the Epstein files. The first thing they opened up with as soon as they got back was the Epstein files. All right. So it is impressive that they are that consistent, but it should also be disturbing that in the end, no matter how retarded their answers are, they will always be treated the same way by the press. The press is going to continue to give them tons of levity, tons of grace, in order to keep them, because essentially the Democrats own the mainstream media. The mainstream media is essentially run and controlled by leftists. All right. Now, the DHS has been doing some work, and there's a report here that I want to play, and then we're going to read some of the things that have been going on X. Okay, so I'm going to just play this video. All right, the breaking news. Hang on. Breaking news. ICE officially confirms that they are now going after employers who are hiring illegal aliens, criminal record or not. Employers must be held accountable. All right, now let's play this video and then let me know your thoughts about this move. It's an unpopular move. A lot of people are going to be up in arms about this because there's the narrative of, okay, you guys said you're going after the criminals. How come now you're attacking people who hired the ones who aren't violent? So let's just listen to this report.
At least over the first couple of days. And acting ICE Director Todd Lyons said it's not going to stop just at apprehending criminal illegal aliens. Listen to what he said.
We're going to focus on the worst of the worst, but we're also going to make sure if you're here in the country legally, we're going to get you out. And to the employers who employ and attract a lot of these illegal aliens that come in and steal American jobs, we're going to focus on those American companies as well.
Now, there's all of these protests to say, okay, you're not just focusing on criminal illegal aliens, you're focusing on folks who are just in this country illegally, you're focusing now on employers. But this is exactly what the Obama administration did in 2012, 2013, 2014. They went after criminal, they prioritized criminal illegal aliens, but they deported a lot of other people too.
Exactly.
Who were just in the country illegally, and there wasn't a huge hue and cry from the left about that.
If you're
And that's where the hypocrisy, if the left was picking on very, very technically bad policies that President Trump is acting out on, if these are realistic issues that they can oppose him on, that would make perfect sense to me. I don't even think I would have a channel. Okay, maybe I'll be doing movie reviews or something. Okay, or I'll be doing WordPress tutorials. But watching the hypocrisy of the left, whenever you see them going after President Trump, and then on the most common sense issues, they go after President Trump. It's insane. Because it makes no sense that they would go after him on things as basic as being tough on crime. Okay, he wants to get rid of the violent criminals and they attack him for it. So there's a problem with that picture, in my opinion.
in this country illegally, you made two choices, not just to enter the country illegally or stay in the country illegally, but now you have a choice as well. You can leave now, take a $1,000 exit bonus, free flight home, and then potentially return the right legal way. But if you don't, the message is very clear. We will arrest you, but I also think that there are more facts here as well. There's about 1,400 criminal illegal aliens that right now are in North Carolina in Charlotte's jails that they refuse to turn over to ICE law enforcement. If those sanctuary city politicians would work with us and actually let us into their jails to take out these MS-13 gang members, murderers, serial child rapists, which I've seen these lists of people, they are heinous individuals who are in these jails. If they are released back into Charlotte and not turned over to ICE, they will go on to re-perpetuate crimes.
And that's really common sense. Why do people have an issue with violent criminals being arrested and kicked out of the country? But right now, I think the DHS is opting for widening its net in order to further fulfill the campaign promises that President Trump made on the campaign trail. Now, there's another report concerning human trafficking. What a lot of people don't talk about, when you talk about American jobs, it's true that American jobs are at stake. But very few people talk about the children, women who are being trafficked as a result of the open borders. They're in the country and no one knows where they are. No one is talking about them. Now, here's this report that talks about that. And let me know your thought, because if all we're talking about is the fact that, okay, the Trump administration is going after these undocumented immigrants who have committed crimes, and the possibility of the other people who are undocumented taking jobs away from American people, if the people who are saying this are so big on compassion, how about the kids, the children who have been trafficked? Over 300,000 of them, according to the data that was presented last year. So let's listen to this and then let me know your thoughts about this report.
New data now from the National Human Trafficking Hotline, and it shows the problem is growing in areas that have Democrat leadership, particularly Charlotte, North Carolina. The head of nonprofits that combat human trafficking in Charlotte, one of them spoke to Fox Digital.
Really is kind of like a perfect storm. There are a lot of variables. I mean, one of the things that we have to know is that trafficking happens everywhere. And so it happens in every city and every town, whether you're rural, whether you're city, it really doesn't matter. But for Charlotte, one of the things is that we have a lot of factors that attract a demand. Things like international airports, all of our interstates, you can get to California, you can get to New York, you can get to Florida. We have major sports teams. All of those things are drawing people who are coming and have disposable income. They're having a good time. We also are the second largest banking industry, second only to New York. And so you've got people coming in for business and then leaving.
A private investigation firm in the area says gangs with extensive resources are making the problem worse. It's also talked with Fox Digital, and here's a quote. The Bloods have a huge stronghold in human trafficking. They're one of the primary organized crime groups responsible for trafficking in Charlotte, end of quote. Boy, I haven't heard the Bloods, the Crips, all that in many years.
Yeah, man, the trafficking has gotten out of control. And one thing, it's really interesting, too, particularly about these kind of Democrat-run cities, is that, look, they can basically barely handle basic crime. I mean, stopping crime in their own cities. The idea that they're going to be able to stand up to some of these major, sophisticated, sex trafficking networks is a concern to many. So I think we've got to make sure they get more resources. One thing that's very heartening for me is all the local organizations that have really stood up to help and assist law enforcement with ending this kind of surge that we've seen recently. I've read a lot about this too, just being from Atlanta, where unfortunately the Atlanta airport, the world's busiest airport, there's a lot of human trafficking. Hartsfield-Jackson, where I was just going through last night, where there's a lot of sex trafficking that happens there. And it's important that a lot of local organizations come together and end the demand for it. And a lot of that comes to us men, making sure that we end the demand for human trafficking that is going through our country. But there's also organizations, one's called Men Opposed to Sex Trafficking, a lot of veterans and former law enforcement officers who are helping law enforcement get tips, and be able to track these guys down. It's led by a friend of mine named Bruce Deal, and he does a great work. And I think organizations like that are making an impact.
It's interesting because that is a huge help. That's such a critical component of all of this.
All right, so I'm looking through the comment section. I'm going to just open this up. I'm looking through the comment section, and I'm seeing a lot of course, the usual political positioning of the fact that Democrat-run cities keep turning into trafficking hubs. Okay, now I don't know about that. And if you think that that's an issue or a factor, let me know what you know in the chat. All right. Charlotte is now getting exposed in real time. Operation Charlotte's Web is about to drag a lot of darkness into the light. No more hiding behind excuses or blue city spin. So, according to the report on X, the Department of Homeland Security launched Operation Charlotte's Web in Charlotte, North Carolina, over the weekend, arresting at least 130 individuals in the country illegally with criminal records, including gang members and those involved in human trafficking. The operation targets a city ranked 9th nationwide for human trafficking. Imagine that. Charlotte, North Carolina is ranked 9th nationwide for human trafficking, which saw a 76% increase in child cases while local leaders refused to transfer 1,400 criminal detainees to federal custody. So for people who are very big on saying that they're compassionate and they want to take care of people and they want the vulnerable immigrants to be to have due process, what about the kids? What about the children? Okay, so you have these children being trafficked, and yet the people who are responsible for trafficking them are being protected by Democrat leadership in these cities. Enforcement will expand to employers hiring unauthorized workers. During one of the raids, I think it was in California, one of the people who worked at a job site happened to be trafficking people. So when an employer has people like that on their payroll, I mean, a lot of questions have to be asked. A lot of questions have to be asked. All right, so enforcement will expand to employers hiring unauthorized workers, drawing protests, accusations of racial profiling from Governor Josh Steen, and community fears, though officials insist actions are based on immigration status. Anywho, what do you think about this report? It is frightening that you have this going on right under the noses of city officials. Right? But you know what? I don't think they're unaware of all of this. They know what's going on. They know what's going on. All right, so let me know what you think in the chat. We are going to jump over to more immigration-related stories. There's a situation in Chicago. I reported on this a while back, and I talked about the fact that a Chicago police officer who happened to be an undocumented immigrant was operating freely in Chicago. It's a weird situation, but it's mind-boggling that happened. All right, so here's the story, and we're just going to cover it. I mentioned it a few weeks
So how long have you been a police officer?
Well,
January of this year?
Correct. I just finished the academy.
You just finished the academy, okay.
You had to get that.
Just to confirm though too,
Yeah.
so they hired you on, you had work authorization?
Correct.
And you were able to carry a firearm?
No.
Okay.
On duty, yes. Off duty, no.
So on duty you could carry a firearm,
State of Illinois, you need a Ford and a CCW to carry a weapon off duty.
but on duty you could?
Correct.
Wow.
You know, what's crazy about this is I don't know anything about him other than he says he loves America. The problem is
He's not even a citizen. So he can't own a firearm legally in our country, but he's being given a firearm by the state of Illinois as a police officer in the state. And apparently all you have to have is work authorization in this state. That is insane. You haven't even sworn allegiance to our country yet, and yet we're giving you a firearm. Now, this guy may be a great guy, but how many others are working in our country as police officers who aren't great guys?
Okay, so this story is, again, one of those stories with nuance. Not every illegal immigrant hates America. Not every illegal immigrant is a violent criminal. But whenever you have the leadership of your country creating these volatile scenarios where, you have millions of people who came into the country illegally, mixed in with those millions are criminal cartel members, violent criminals, people who have mental health issues, people who have criminal histories from their countries come into your country undocumented and unvetted, and they proceed to commit crimes in your country. It raises a lot of anxiety whenever you're dealing with immigrants. Secondly, there are laws on the books about what somebody who isn't a citizen can do and cannot do. And when you see stories like this, the guy doesn't look like he's a criminal. He doesn't. Weeks ago when the story broke, there were a lot of people were trying to make it sensational. An illegal immigrant was given a job in Chicago and so on, and it's a big deal because Chicago is a blue city, and any opportunity to rub in the fact that they did something wrong, everyone takes it. But we also have to realize that these are people who happen to go to a city or a country who went to a blue city, and that blue city chose to circumvent federal law in order to keep them in the blue cities. So he's now facing the consequences of the bad policy enforcement of these blue cities and states. Whenever we talk about immigration and how people react to the fact that immigration enforcement is an important part of federal law enforcement and how people have been attacking ICE and so on, people tend to forget that the leadership of these states and cities created this maelstrom that we're dealing with. Because I remember that before Tom Homan resumed his role, he said that already blue cities had already begun to signal that they would not cooperate with ICE, that they would not. And because they haven't cooperated with ICE, we have these problems that we're facing today. All right. So whenever you see stuff like this and people say, look, ICE are the bad guys, ICE are the Gestapo, what do you expect when you begin to run into stories like this and you begin to have conflicts where this guy isn't a bad guy, but because the local city refused to enforce basic immigration laws, they've put him in a very bad position. Okay. Now, I would like to say now I'm going to read the report that has basically been summarized on Grok, just so that we have our facts together. All right. So here are the facts. Here are the facts. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents arrested 25-year-old Radul Bojovic, or Vich, I think that's how it's pronounced, a Montenegrin national who overstayed his 2015 tourist visa while he worked as a sworn officer for the Hanover Park Police Department in suburban Chicago. Despite federal law prohibiting undocumented immigrants from possessing firearms under 18 U.S.C. yada, 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 Bojovic carried a department-issued gun after being hired in early 2025 with a salary of nearly $79,000. The case, part of ICE's Operation Midway Blitz on October 15th, 2025, underscores tensions between Illinois sanctuary policies under Governor J.B. Pritzker and federal immigration enforcement, with Bojovic released on bond and facing deportation proceedings. I don't know why this happened. I don't know why this happened. Okay, I don't know why this happened, because he's working for the government now. From what I understand, being an immigrant, at least here in Canada, if you work, if you hold a job for a government department, first off, your immigration status has to be valid. That's the first thing. You can't work for the government without a valid immigration status. Second, if you work there long enough, they can facilitate your progression towards permanent residency and so on. Since you work for the government, you've been vetted and they trust you. But in this case, like, I'm finding it very hard to understand what went wrong in his case. Okay. Now, let's check out the chat. Canary King says, wow, mind-boggling. And then, does it make a difference if illegals love the country? Does that exempt them from the laws? No, it doesn't. I don't think so. I don't think it does. I don't think it does. The thing that's mind-boggling is that whenever you see these kinds of stories, yes, you know, those who are like bleeding hearts will say, oh, he loves the country. Why are you trying to kick him out? He's been in the country since 2015. This is 10 years. If he had a job or if he had a path towards getting a permanent residency or a green card, why didn't he take it? Like, what is the problem? What is the problem? Why did he struggle? Why did it take so long? It doesn't exempt him from the laws. All right. Canadian said he looks like a criminal. Of course he looks like a criminal. I don't know. I don't know if he didn't look like one to me. He didn't look like one to me. So you could maybe you're a better judge of character, you know, but he didn't look like a criminal to me. All right. So more from the chat. He isn't a bad guy. Sorry, that has nothing to do with it. You either come legally or you break the law, which is true. Now, based on this report, it says he overstayed his tourist visa. So he did have a valid visa. He did, but he overstayed. All right. So that's the problem with this picture. He overstayed his visa. It's a tough one, guys. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. All right. Now, ICE is announcing a brand new operation to conduct welfare checks on the 450,000 children that the Biden administration placed with unvetted sponsors, some of whom were sex traffickers, gang members, and abusers. Guys, I hear stuff like this and I'm like, what on earth went on for 4 years in the United States? Let's watch this report and let me know your thoughts about this.
Fox News Alert, ICE announcing a brand new operation to conduct welfare checks on the 450,000 children that the Biden administration placed with unvetted sponsors, some of whom were sex traffickers, gang members, and abusers. The Trump administration has already located more than 24,400 children, and some of these stories are absolutely heartbreaking, like this one. A 1-year-old unaccompanied minor crossed the border during the Obama administration. That little girl is now 12 years old.
Wow.
During her 11 years in America, she lived with a series of relatives and endured horrifying abuse. According to Fox's Brooke Taylor, she was found in the custody of 2 sisters who have now been arrested. The 12-year-old was found, quote, with injuries all over her body, extreme malnutrition, and an infected gash on her head and zip ties around her wrist. Among those who abused this innocent child were her one-time sponsor, a distant uncle that she was placed with in 2024, despite being an illegal immigrant with a criminal conviction. That sponsor, that alleged abuser, was given temporary protected status by the Biden administration. Why? Here is video that Brooke Taylor obtained of the Trump administration arresting that man just yesterday. This is just one of the nearly 500,000 children that the Trump administration is seeking to protect. And this operation comes after the administration announced that Operation Dirtbag, conducted in partnership with the state of Florida, resulted in the arrest of 230 criminal illegal immigrants, including 150 sexual predators. Here was Deputy ICE Director Madison Sheehan announcing that development.
In just 10 days, we've been able to remove, in partnership with the state of Florida, over 230 of the worst heinous criminals from their streets. Our job as law enforcement is to protect the most vulnerable. Democrats will tell you that that is the criminal illegal aliens who they have let run free in our communities, but not this group of law enforcement. We know that it's the children that is our job to protect.
Wow, this is insane. And these are the kinds of reports that you hear, and you're like, what on earth happened for 4 years? So here's the report. I'm just going to read out a little. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has initiated the Unaccompanied Children's Safety Verification Initiative to assess the welfare of approximately 450,000 unaccompanied migrant children. I think we've heard most of the reports here, so this is more of the same. Okay. Why do we see a lot of push on immigration enforcement? It's if this was really an issue of not running roughshod on immigrants, the question is, if it's really all about that, sit with the administration and talk with the administration to figure out a middle ground. There has to be a middle ground for the blue cities to work with the federal government to save these kids. There are 450,000. Yet, so far, 24,400 children have been located. So that leaves how many? It's a mind-boggling reality that this is happening in the United States. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Now, Kanarikin is taking us back to the last video that we watched. And he says, tourist visas doesn't let you work, does it? I don't know. I'm not an immigration consultant or lawyer certified in the US, but I do know that in Canada, if an immigrant comes in, or if a visitor comes in with a visitor's visa, they can't work. If you come in with a different type of visa that doesn't clear you for work, you can't work. Working means that you have broken immigration laws. Okay, so you're right. It doesn't let you work. So he overstayed his visa and he's working, which is a problem. All right. He's basically created multiple problems for himself. All right. All right. Now let's see if we can do one more story. All right. Let's do one more story. This is an interesting one, and I don't know if it floats your boat, but let's take a look at this. Okay. Now, the Department of Education, as far as I'm concerned, hasn't done a good job for students for a lot of students in the United States. I have my gripes with the Department of Education, so that's granted. However, when you have oh, excuse me, did I get that? I download the video. Don't think I have this. When you have reports like this about how the Department of Education, employees of the Department of Education, go on lavish trips on the taxpayer's dime, and yet can't manage to educate the kids properly, it raises a lot of questions.
Principal, but $400 a night Vegas suite for a conference at a different hotel that started 2 days after his arrival and ended after he left. Teachers took a 4,700 7-day trip to Hawaii for a 4-day professional development seminar. You could have zoomed it, by the way. 15 staff trips to Finland, Estonia, Egypt, and South Africa for professional developmental and school visits. So not only do your results suck, but you're out there traveling around the country, and because you feel impervious because the teachers union put the mayor in office and put the governor in office, so you can go and do these exotic trips, and then you could just put the kids in cargo.
Meanwhile, at the same time, going against the charter schools that want to do a better job, that have shown the results, you're seeing these kids go to four-year universities on scholarship, the same poor kids that they said that could not be educated because of their background. And then we can't get kids to even attend school, but it's no wonder, because if you look at the teachers, they're doing the same thing. 43% of the teachers in Chicago public school logged 10 or more absences for the 24-25 school year. So the kids aren't showing up to school, and the teachers aren't either.
That's just crazy.
That's sad.
That's like half of teachers missing 10 days of school. And I also think, too, about how short the school year is and how short it feels. There's so many days off. But the report cards speak for what's happening there. The 2025 report card there in Chicago, this is for K through 12.
Okay, so let's look at this report card, right? This should infuriate you if you're a parent. Sending your kids to a school or through the Chicago school system, hearing that they spend lavish sums on these trips, and then yet your kids are not 58% of kids in the Chicago school system in grades K-12, K-12 are not proficient in reading, okay? And only 42% are proficient in reading. These teachers don't deserve to be taking these lavish trips. If you're not doing a good job, and that's why the private sector is such a cool thing. In the private sector, if you don't perform, you're fired. I don't like the public sector. I don't like government work. I don't. Because of these kinds of records. People think that they have tenure. They think that they get a job in government and they can just, float through and not deliver on anything. And yet they take money from the taxpayer. We pay them the salary and they don't do the job. In math, 73% are not proficient in math. Now, can you imagine that? That is a failure. That is a failure. In fact, in my opinion, the Chicago school systems report basically has shown that the school system has failed, because in my books, anything below 50% is a failure. 27% are proficient in math. That is insane, guys.
58% of kids are not proficient in reading. 42% are not proficient in math. 73% not proficient in math, I should say. That's 3/4 of the students. We should be embarrassed that we're letting this happen in one of our greatest cities.
In almost every city, you will see.
Yeah, so that's the report. Now I'm going to read what, I'm going to just read the summary. It's cool. It's cool to kind of give my own reaction to these stories, but I like to give you the lowdown from the reports up here. An Inspector General's report revealed Chicago public schools expended $23.6 million on overnight travel for staff and students from 2019 to 2024, with costs reaching $7.7 million in 2024, despite a $734 million budget gap. The investigation identified lax oversight on approved trips, combining professional development with tourism and to destinations like Egypt and South Africa, and frequent overruns on lodging and airfare. It is the taxpayer money, so nobody cares. In response, CPS enacted a travel freeze and is developing new policies while student proficiency lags, with only 40% reading at grade level and 25% in math under 2025 assessment. This is totally unacceptable. Canary says, this is nuts. I agree. This is nuts. I don't know about you, but this is my kids go to public school over here. They go to public school. So I understand the draw towards public school. But if I could afford it, I would move my kids from public school to either a Catholic school or to a private school that knows what it's doing. You know, this is just insane. Again, Canadian, please, if you're watching, let me know your thoughts in the chat. It's on purpose. The school system is designed for this outcome. I agree. The school system was originally designed, according to various voices that I've heard, was designed to create factory workers who would sit down and do their job. That was what it was designed for. So it's no surprise that this is happening. The educational system is only meant to brainwash you and make you compliant. It is. The more uncompliant you are, the more you will fail at the school system. And I mean it in the sense of, if you're the kind of person who is an independent thinker, the school system would push hard against you. It's not going to take hold of your brain that much. For me, I was one of those people. And it just didn't work out for me with the school system. It didn't. Yes, I went through, the medical training and everything. But when I was done, I said, I'm so done with all of this. I'm not even practicing. I went into technology. Yeah, I mean, I so rebelled against the school system. It was insane. I was like, no, this is not. I'm not even going to bother doing this. I'm going to become a techie. I didn't even know what that was, but I became a techie. All right. So guys, let me know your thoughts in the chat. Okay, we have a few minutes to hang out in the chat. So let me know your thoughts in the chat. All right. We've gone through a bunch of stories. We've looked at the hijab training that we saw happening in an event for World Hijab Day. I don't know what that is, but it's a thing, okay? And we had NYPD officers, female officers who wear hijabs, teaching the public on how to put on a hijab. I asked the question, if it was okay, if it's good for the goose, it should be good for the gander. If it's good for a New York City police officer to teach people how to wear the hijab is not a cultural it's not a cultural dress. It is a religious garb. It's a religious garb. So if it's okay for them to teach the religious dressing of their religion, shouldn't it be okay for Christian cops to do the same thing? I put up a poll on the YouTube channels, And so far, it's 50-50. Some people say yes. Okay, so the poll asks this question: does the hijab policy mean Christian officers can openly wear the cross as part of their uniform? I put it out there just to see what you'd say. And 50% said yes, since Muslims get this option to put on a hijab. Then I had 50% saying no, neither is acceptable. And personally, I'm like, yeah, no, neither is acceptable, because it was never a thing, even with Christians. You know, it's never a thing. Thank you, Canary King. Now, Canary King and I had a meeting. I'm going to out myself. Canary King and I had a meeting this afternoon, and we discussed my pacing during the live stream. And he's saying, look, he likes the fact that I did apply some of the things we discussed. I try to keep my promises. If you gave me great advice and I promised to apply the advice, I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I need help. I need all the help I can get. All right. So those of you who are watching, if you're still watching and you can leave a chat, we're about to wrap up. We're going to try to stick to an hour every night. We have 3 minutes to go before we end the live stream. So we're going to try to stick to an hour. And then we want to be able to get a lot of engagement from you. All right. Thank you. Yeah, I did my best to keep it moving along. I got distracted for a bit. Okay. My wife called me a few minutes after we started the stream, and I think I'm going to have a business meeting with my wife because she keeps calling me in the middle of my streams. She called me this afternoon, and she called me tonight. So I'm going to have a business meeting with my wife to say, okay, here's when you can call me, because whenever I get these calls from my wife, I have to take them. I love my wife. I want to know she's okay. Okay, I want to know she's okay. All right, so one more chat from Canary King. Look, if you're watching and you're seeing all these communication from Canary King, you can do the same too. Just hit the chat and let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. The separation of church, religion, and state is literally a constitutional amendment. The state should not endorse a religious practice. So what should be done? And I would also like to say that this isn't just an incident that's happening only in New York. This video was a New York PD video, but I'm almost certain that it's happening in other states in the country, which I think is a challenge. It's a problem. It's a problem. I don't think it should be allowed, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. The separation of church and state has been used on Christians who work in the public sector, police departments, the army. There has been this droning of the separation of church and state. And Christians have complied. They've done their best to separate church and state. How come it's not a thing? All right, so David, thank you, David, for chiming in. David says, no Christian crosses, no Muslim hoods, no prayer breaks on a rug. I agree. Like, these are the things that Christians, while America openly showed Christian values in the public space, there was a clear separation. If you wanted to pray, you did it on your own time in private. It's a private thing. But now we're having these incidents that I find online of Muslims laying out prayer rugs in the middle of a library on a campus. They lay out a prayer rug. Let me see if I can find it. I see these things happening and I'm like, what on earth is happening to West? What's going on? Okay. What's going on? It should be unacceptable. It should be unacceptable. Let me see. So all right, I can't find it, so we'll just leave it. We'll move on. And so there's another chat. Canary King, this is completely unacceptable. Yeah, it is. Now, the fact that this is a constitutional amendment means that this is breaking the law. So what can we do about it? What can we do about it? Right? I need suggestions. All right, I need suggestions. What can we do about it? All right, because as long as these things continue to happen, the goalpost is gonna keep moving. It's gonna keep moving, and then eventually we're gonna find out that, oh well, Broadway on Fridays at 1 p.m. are covered, like the entire street is covered with Muslims out there praying with their rugs out in the middle of the street. It's already happening. It's encroaching gradually. It's encroaching gradually. Okay, hold on. I'll just show you this. And I think some of you may have seen this before. Okay. I'm going to show you this. And a lot of people have talked about this. And this is I'm going to just share my screen. All right, guys, I'm going to just share the screen. All right, so a lot of people will look at this, and when you ask them, where do you think this is? They'll say, well, that looks like Mecca or Dubai or Egypt. All right. Now, the comment section here, let me zoom in. All right. This is Toronto. Guys, it starts small. It always starts small. And then eventually, it just keeps growing and growing and becomes unwieldy. Talking about it is decried as being Islamophobic. If a Christian church did that, the number of sanctions that would come down hard on that church would be insane. It would be insane. Well, maybe if this continues to pop up in the news and in updates, we're going to keep talking about it. But we're at the end of the live stream. Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much, Canary King, as always. Thank you, everyone else who stayed this long to watch this immigrant talk about your country. And give his reaction to what he's seeing. And I appreciate the fact that you took the time to join this live stream. Thank you so much. We're going to be back tomorrow for the afternoon live stream at 12 noon Eastern, and also for another evening live stream at 9 p.m. Eastern. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here, and I will catch you tomorrow. All right. Thanks for being here. Goodbye, and God bless. Oh, let me put in the next chat. Yeah, that is that's what I do. I don't talk about it. I don't talk about it. All of my opinions focus on the United States. I don't know anything about the Canadian legal system, the Canadian political system. I am blissfully ignorant of all of that. Blissfully ignorant. And I don't want to have an opinion. I don't. I don't think it's necessary. All right. Just wanted to make sure that I squeezed that chat in. Thank you so much for contributing to the life of this live stream. We will be back tomorrow afternoon. I hope to see you there, and I'll catch you on the next one. God bless you. Good night. Welcome to Headlines and History, live news reactions and your views. We're about to go live soon, so grab your spot and get ready for a sharp, balanced take on today's biggest news stories with a dash of historical insight. Stay tuned. Each week, we tackle the headlines that matter: politics, economics, global events with a balanced lens. We'll react live, tie today's stories to historical moments, and spotlight your views in the chat. From trade talks echoing the 1990s to crises recalling 2008, we're here to unpack it all. Your voice drives the show. Share your thoughts or historical parallels in the live chat, and we'll dive into the best ones. It's news, context, and community all in 1 hour. We're moments away from launching Headlines and History. Stick around for live reactions, historical nuggets, and your chance to chime in. Hit the notification bell, prep your comments, and let's make sense of the news together. See you soon.